I wouldn't say I'd changed my opinion. I would say I have flipped my opinion about how hard it is to A, run a school, and B, be a teacher, and C, help children. Today is going to be my last Life in Business video blog, because 1 year ago today I sat down with my fellow director and said, I know what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a video every week for a year, and this is the 52nd video. I'm going to do something different today. I'm going to go and see a school. The first thing we ever did as a business is we sat down together and said, we could work in schools, we could do something really valuable with schools, obviously with budget pressures and all the rest of it, we could help them. And we're all governors, right? All our directors are governors of schools, which I think every business advisor should be actually, volunteer their time for schools. And so I'm going to go and see a secondary school and talk to their business manager, which most schools have now, who will have a remit to save as much money as possible and to create opportunities. And I'm going to go and donate my time and spend an hour and a half with her seeing what a business consultant can do for a business manager in a school. And we're going to do that in Bude, where I live, as it's the final video. Okay, I've left the meeting at the school, met the business manager for an hour and a half, and it was a very quiet intro, wasn't it? Because I don't know what I can do for them, and they don't know what I could do for the school. And so half the meeting, I think, was more about what we believe about education, the business manager and myself. And this is what business think, believe. People should be taught enterprise in school. Okay. Now that may sound like a glib statement, but as a real example, we did a presentation at a university earlier this year to a group of 30 university business studies students, talking about the book we'd written. And at the end, my business partner stood up and he said, how many of you are actually going to start a business? This is the business studies course. And of the 30 people in the room, 2 said they would actually start a business. Most wanted to go into marketing. I don't have a problem with that. Go into marketing if you want. However, if you want a stark example of how enterprise is not communicated in the education system, not schools, the education system as a viable alternative in your life, running your own business, then there it is. 2. So 1 in 15 people who do business studies actually want to run their own business in their life. Well, it is a viable alternative, isn't it? Because whilst I'm not saying it's easy, it's definitely not. The benefits are plentiful. I am sitting here with you, well, not with you, but in my brain with you, talking about business, which I enjoy, talking about life, as I have done for the last 51 videos. As we know, these are called A Life in Business for the reason that business is all about your life and not the other way around. And I'm enjoying myself because no one is telling me what to do. Sometimes I'd like people to tell me what to do, sometimes. But the freedom and the reward of doing what you love cannot be matched with employment. And I remember people always used to say, and it's true, £1 earned running a business emotionally is worth at least £10 you got as an employee. So I go into the school, I say, look, this is what we do. You know, we talk about strategies and things like that, but we also enable. They're just words without enablement. And so how could I help you? I know your job, from what I know about schools, is fundamentally going to be about cost savings, and you'll be very good at it. And she was really good at it. Really, really good. And so I said, I'm not going to sit here, just like I wouldn't sit here with a business and say, you need to ring up some suppliers and renegotiate your deals. Well, I would say that. I would say you have to do it, but I wouldn't do it. It's inherently simple. You ring up your existing supplier and say, are you going to do me a deal for being a loyal customer, or I'll go somewhere else? That's a bit stark, I suppose, but I'm doing the supplier a favour. You can keep my business. I didn't have to ring you. And so the whole world today, isn't it, is about more for less. I'm making kind of, a bad smell face because I'm not sure I buy into that more for less thing, because that means somebody's suffering somewhere, doesn't it? However, I go in and say, look, I am not going to be able to help you with cost savings. I can look at accounts. I do that all the time. I can look at accounts and look for opportunities to make more money. And we both agreed, that profit is still a controversial word in a school. And she said, yes, you mean value? I said, yeah, I do. And I do. And when we work with charities as well, you can't do anything without money. And so you can call that profit or margin, or, well, you can call it profit or margin. You still have to make it. The difference between, let's say, a private sector organisation and a school is values-based, meaning they'll pump every penny of that profit back into adding value for children, which I believe in. I've been a governor of a school for 4 years now. But before I was a governor at school, had a view of education which I will call media created. Meaning, I had an opinion of what a teacher's life was like. I had an opinion of how you run a school. And I had an opinion about what children should do there. I haven't spent 4 years working in that economic environment. Schools cost money. At a strategic level, I wouldn't say I'd changed my opinion. I would say I have flipped my opinion about how hard it is to A, run a school, and B, be a teacher, and C, help children. That is not because they're not trying. That is because of money. And I've sat through all the academisation, it's easy for me to say, academisation discussions. I've been to trust pitches. I have sat through this process, which headmasters have said to me is the most, significant period of change in a short time that has ever been in education. Talking about structure and how people want schools to run like businesses. What a dreadful idea. What I mean by that is, I think schools should generate profit for reinvestment. And I think, especially today, when you actually don't know how much money you're getting year on year, that is more important now in education for schools than ever before. I don't think a school should be afraid of generating income if you invest that money in education. In fact, I think they should embrace it. And we talked about private schools and the comparison, and she'd had a background in private education, and I know quite a bit about private education. And they don't. Profit is not a dirty word in their meetings. Profit is not a word they're afraid of, because they reinvest it. That's a cultural issue, isn't it? So I think schools should be very enterprising. I think schools, and like I said, the first conversation we ever had as a business was not about consultancy, it was about schools. We bought a domain name, school company, because we think schools should be companies, but not with lots of shareholders, not run for profit in the sense of for profit's sake, to reinvest that money. But what is an opportunity in a school? And this came up today, this is me, not the person I met, right? What do schools have that no other business has in terms of a commercial opportunity? They have space, which is unused for long periods. They have terms and not terms, right? They have space. Businesses love space. to either do something in or pay someone else or get paid by someone else to do something in the space. They have space, they have infrastructure, they have buildings, they have land. We should be, milking that asset for the good of children. Not 3 terms a year, all the time. They have people. They have a massive payroll. They have lots of skilled people. Teachers are clever people. The ones I've met. The heads and the management teams of schools are as good, if not better, than any directors I ever meet and have ever met. They have skills, business skills, if they have the mindset to apply them. It's kind of my job, isn't it? Is to push in a commercial mindset for the good of the children. And finally, they have a captured audience, and those are bad words for this, but that is what it is. They have children with parents. And in a secondary school, 1,500 kids, that is 1,500 families. That is 6,000 people who have an interest in supporting the school because they know the government aren't necessarily going to the level we want. That's a market. A loyal, captured market that you should not be afraid to engage, because every pound in the school is a pound helping a child. Running a school, as I've seen it, is harder than running any business I've ever met. And that, I think, is a message that everybody should know.